Okay, folks, today's episode requires a bit of a backstory. So, in the off chance that you've been living in a media blackout zone for the past little bit, here is a whirlwind recap. You ready? Let's go.
For God's sake, strap yourselves down quick!
So, we're going to set the Wayback Machine to September 2024 when Volodymyr Zelenskyy met with then candidate Donald Trump in New York and indicated that he would be open to trading Ukraine's rare earth mineral rights in exchange for U.S. support. In November 2024, Trump won the general election. In January 2025, Trump was sworn in. And on February 7th, 2025, Zelenskyy indicated in a Reuters interview that he would, quote unquote, do a deal as long as there are security guarantees in place. So on February 12th, 2025, Donald Trump had a private phone call with Vladimir Putin. On February 19th, 2025, U.S. and Russian officials met in Saudi Arabia to discuss restoring relations and laying the groundwork for ending the conflict. On February 27th, Zelenskyy confirmed that a deal was near. Then on February 28th, Zelenskyy showed up at the White House to sign that deal, and all hell broke loose as a simple pre-meeting photo op turned into a shouting match that ended with Zelenskyy being sent packing. Now, some people said that Trump and Vice President Vance were in the wrong and publicly humiliated Zelenskyy. Some people said that Zelenskyy was out of line when he showed up to have that conversation with Trump and Vance. But regardless, Europe saw this as an opportunity and stepped up to commit more aid and commit more support to Zelenskyy. But when France and the UK asked Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni to commit troops, she said, and I'm paraphrasing liberally here,
"You have strong feelings about this."
Then, on March 4th, reports emerged that Zelenskyy had changed his mind and was now ready to sign the deal again. But on March 5th, Zelenskyy said he's getting even more cash from Europe, so we're just going to keep on fighting. And that, dear friends, brings us up to today. And that also brings us to the point of this whole video. How HR professionals reacted, how business owners and executives reacted, and what this means for you and for the workplace in general. Got that? God, I need a drink. Cue the music. Cue the music. Hey folks, Mark here with The Rational Workforce. Thanks so much for stopping by. During the past 48 to 72 hours, I've seen a wave of LinkedIn posts that were all saying variations on the same theme regarding Trump's meeting with Zelenskyy in the White House. And, well, it's been something. You know, LinkedIn has historically been a politically agnostic place. You would see little glimmers of politics here and there. But once Trump won the general election, things really started skewing pretty nasty. So for the first time ever on LinkedIn, I started blocking people in bulk. And, you know, it's not because I don't want a variety of opinions. I actually tend to seek out different opinions. I love having discussions and debates and just learning more so I can understand all angles of an issue. And it's not because I hold a different view of events or that I believe my views of the events are correct. I mean, admittedly, I lean right on most issues, but there has been so many promises made and promises broken on both sides of the aisle that just a general distrust of politicians is kind of my factory default setting. So it's not even that. But I've started blocking people for two main reasons. One is the level of vitriol has been absolutely off the charts. Now, the posts from some of these people really just put forward a very singular, very narrow-minded point of view that, you know, no other viewpoint, no matter how nuanced or carefully considered, was worthy of contemplation, and actually they were pretty insulting. And number two, the source. I mean, the people that I blocked were largely HR professionals and executives. And that was really troubling and also, well, more than a little bit hypocritical. You know, because for years, these people have been complaining about a lack of quality candidates and skills gaps and all sorts of personnel-related issues that have been making their jobs harder. But if you drew a Venn diagram of the people who are complaining about those sorts of things and the people who are now most loudly taking political potshots at anyone that didn't share their same opinion, that diagram would be a perfect circle. Any candidate who does a bit of research before submitting that resume or taking that interview is going to see these posts and they're going to have to make a judgment call. And my contention is the smart ones, regardless of political affiliation, whether they agreed with these posts or not, those folks should take a hard pass. Not because of the employer's politics, but because of the mindset that those posts represent. Now, these posts signaled an absolute orthodoxy of thought, a true lack of openness and a my way or the highway attitude. And it doesn't require much creativity to map onto that mindset a personal situation. So as a candidate, I would look at those posts, I would see that language and that attitude and the sentiment that was conveyed, and I would ask myself, if I had a disagreement at work, if I had a differing viewpoint, is this how it's going to be handled? I mean, it's not a great look, folks. Now, I know what some of you are going to say, but Mark, they're just as likely to read those posts and walk away with the belief that we're a company that won't tolerate bullies. Fair enough. But if you're one of the people who have had to hire and fire people within your company, think back to the last time your boss or a manager or a C-level executive or a board member told you to do something that you didn't agree with. Did you push back or did you do it anyway? Did you ever terminate an employee or hundreds of employees for a reason other than cause or performance and just went with the flow? I mean, someone that you know was doing a good job and doing it well, but they just happened to end up on the wrong column on the spreadsheet that day and you had to let them go. Did you take a principled stand for them? Or did you say, well, this is just part of the business, and shrug it off and then run out to grab a latte from Starbucks with your friend and talk about how tough that day was for you without a second thought for the people that you just asked? I'm not necessarily prompting for an answer, but I am asking the question in the spirit of personal reflection. Anyone who served at a senior level within corporate America has probably had more than one of those moments during their career. And they're not pleasant for anyone, but they are a great way to test your mettle. It's a great way to test what you're made of. So now let's get back to the anti-Trump, anti-Musk, anti-JD posts that I saw. And I mean, of course you can voice your opinion. It's a free country and you have the right to say anything, no matter who you might offend. But borrowing a page from the playbook that I've heard time and time again in arguments against having platforms like X be kind of open and free speech, you can have freedom of speech, but you can't have freedom from consequences, right? I mean, that's probably one that we've all heard. Now, if you're an HR or you're a hiring manager and you don't care that you're coming off as condescending or inflexible or incapable of giving a fair shake to anyone with differing political opinions, congratulations. There's a pretty good chance that you just narrowed your U.S. candidate pool by roughly 75 million people. Now, if you keep this up, you'll only attract a very exclusive list of individuals, and each of them will look and act and think just like you. Just like you. Now, to me, that sounds like a recipe for stagnation, but hey, at least you'll all agree at work, right? And once you've established your orthodoxy of thought and weeded out all those pesky candidates and workers with differing opinions, your employee engagement scores might rebound too. What a bonus. Now, on the downside, I'm willing to bet that innovation, empathy, creativity, and performance will all tank significantly. Now, let's look at this another way. Here's a great way to pressure test that whole be your authentic self at work ethos that HR pros have been professing for the past couple of decades. All right, first, I want you to picture your favorite worker. I don't mean your office pal. I mean that one kick-ass employee that you wish you had a million of in the workplace. The hardworking, polite, capable, always comes through in a pinch, doesn't make waves kind of person. Now you've got that person in mind. Take that person and put him in a MAGA hat. Or if you're part of the Trump can do no wrong crowd, picture that person proudly wearing a Harris Waltz shirt. Does your feelings about that person change based on that image in your mind? Be honest. If you answered yes to that question, you might need to recalibrate your compass. If the only authentic self that a person can share is one that is in lockstep with your worldviews, you might not be as inclusive as you think. Now, don't get it twisted. I go off on all manner of topics on other platforms, particularly X. I'm sarcastic and sardonic. I tend to respond to world events with gallows humor. It's a coping mechanism, and I'm guilty of doing it just as much as the next guy. And if you've ever watched other videos on this YouTube channel, you've probably seen a slightly watered down version of that too. So trust me, I know that I live in glass houses, but I'm going to throw a couple stones anyway. Now, I'm being blunt because I'm trying to make a point. It's not coming from a place of malice. There are problems, serious problems in the workplace today, and they've been here for a very long time. Employee engagement has been rough for at least the past 5 years. Now, I know COVID has had a big part to play in that, but think of all the other workplace hostilities that were introduced during this time. First of all, everything's been politicized. Everything from vaccine to DEI to the elections, everything is now tinged with the color of politics, and it stinks. A lot of people don't like it. Secondly, there's been forced participation in non-necessarily work-related programs or activities, such as putting your pronouns in a bio compulsory, or attending certain events that your company may sponsor without any regard for the religious or personal views of the individual. And then also things like we're talking about today, the official company reactions to world events. These force the political views of one individual over that of others, and that leaves a bad taste in the mouth of a lot of workers. And I know that survey after survey has told you that workers want and expect the workplace to mirror their own worldviews and their own values. But if that's true, why have workplaces doing this not become a magnet for talent? Why have so many of these organizations become kryptonite for innovators? You can shake your head, you can but to your heart's content, but the truth of the matter is that you've got some introspection to do. Now, since we're at a point in time where giving free rein to personal opinions is all the rage, here's mine. The world of work would be a far better place if we all just left politics at the door. That doesn't mean people can't be their true and authentic self at work. It just means that we collectively focus more on that which we have in common versus that which keeps us apart. Setting goals, achieving goals, organically developing working relationships with all our co-workers, instead of being chucked into some ill-fitting or limiting ESG-defined category. If bringing your true and authentic self to work requires subjecting workers and clients to your own personal, political, and social views, then perhaps you're just oversharing. Or perhaps it's time for a different job. Or, the more likely scenario, I'm just a curmudgeon. So, no matter how you feel about the matter, I thank you so much for tuning in to hear my 2 cents worth on yet another topic. And if you like what you heard, hit like, ring the bell, hit subscribe, do all the things that will help us to keep the channel growing, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Thanks.